Spooky story time. A follower named Lily sent me this story and we're going to call it Husband, Sister, or Mimic. Lily says that her husband works second shift. He leaves the house around 12:45 to catch the ferry and is usually home around 11:50 p.m. She says that while he's at work, she's at home with her 4 kids, just chilling most of the time. She says that one night around 8:30 p.m. she lays her babies down and she goes into her room, and she wants us to know that their rooms are directly across from each other. Around 9:30 p.m. she's in her room again, relaxing, scrolling on TikTok, and she hears, "Hey babe," coming from the living room. She says that the tone, the mood, the voice, everything that came from that statement sounded exactly like her husband. So she kind of rolls her eyes and she's like, ugh, what does he want? I just got comfortable. And as soon as she gets up, she realizes it's 9:30 p.m. Remember, her husband doesn't get home till about almost midnight. She checks his location and sure enough, he's at work. She's stunned because she's like, I know what I heard. Moments later, she hears "babe," but like an aggravated voice. And she said the voice sounded very upset. So she walks to the hallway and she's just staring at the hallway, expecting to see her husband maybe come out. Maybe he left work a little bit early. Who knows? But again, it's impossible because his location is at work. She ended up falling asleep and she ends up forgetting about this whole situation. One night, her sister comes over and she leaves the house about 10:15 p.m. where she makes sure she locks the doors. She turns off all the lights. She walks into her bedroom. As soon as she crosses that doorway, she hears, "Lily, I forgot my bag. Can you please come help me find it?" This time, she's absolutely positive that she locked the doors and there's no way that her sister got into the house without a key. Her sister does not have a key to her house. So that now is 2 instances. The last one that really freaked her out, and personally freaked me the hell out because I'm a mom, So one night, she is chilling. It's about 11 p.m. and she's waiting for her husband to get home from work. She's sitting in a big fluffy chair watching TV, and behind her is the hallway to the bedrooms. She's just chilling, and then she hears her oldest daughter literally yelling for her frantically to come to her room. Lily says that just 5 minutes ago, she had just checked on her kids to make sure that they were okay before she came to the living room to watch some TV. So she was like, being a mom, she jumps up, frightened and scared, like, oh my God, what's happening? My baby. Then she stops at the hallway, and she remembers the 2 prior incidents that happened. Everything just comes flooding back. She stops at that hallway. She kind of peeks in, and the room is closed. And everything is silent. She knows that you're not supposed to acknowledge them, but being a mom, she yelled back, "What is it, sweetie?" And she's just staring to see if she's gonna hear something back. Then she hears, "Just come here, Mom." She knew instantly that that was not her daughter because her daughter never calls her mom. She always calls her mommy. She didn't move from that hallway until her husband got home, and
Let's do a little scary story time, shall we? About a month or so ago, I posted a video that was titled, "By Talking About the Paranormal, Are You Inviting Things In?" I'd gotten numerous questions about it, and basically in the video, I go into detail about how I believe that no, you're not inviting things in as long as you have set boundaries and you know what you're doing, right? Well, in the video, I did go into detail about how I have been experiencing a few things, so I figured I'd give you guys an update about them. So, in short, I had been experiencing knocks around my house. These knocks are still continuing. It's different from the sound of a house settling. It literally sounds like somebody is going up to the wall and knocking hard. Kind of like you would do to get someone's attention, I guess. These knocks are singular knocks, and usually it'll happen, I'll hear it but not acknowledge it, and then it happens again. If I'm in my living room, it will happen on the wall, on the ceiling, randomly. This isn't a constant thing, it'll just randomly pop up, and in the hallway right outside the living room. I've also heard it in my bedroom. It'll hit the edge of my desk, just randomly. Then I also talked about how I have been touched while trying to go to sleep. And it just so happens that this happened to me again last night. I was laying in my bed. It was probably 2:30 a.m., just like last time. I'm laying there. My dog is at the end of my bed. I'm sleeping next to my husband. And it literally feels at first it feels like somebody has put their hand on the mattress. So I can feel it sink down. Not necessarily somebody sitting full weight, but just
Let's read some scary Reddit stories.
I used to rent a room in a basement apartment. My friend's family lived in the real house upstairs, which is how I ended up there. They have a lot of family parties. They're first generation Filipino, so family parties are a frequent thing. One day, I was doing some homework in my room. The other two tenants weren't home, so I had apartment B to myself. But my friend's family was being so loud upstairs, I was having trouble focusing. So much chatter and feet moving around, it sounded like dancing was going on. I texted my friend, "You guys sound like you're really having a good time up there. I'm not really getting anything done. Can I come up?" He texts back, "No one is home. We went to Wisconsin for the weekend." I went outside, saw that no one's car was there and no lights were on in the house. And then I just went for a walk until someone else got home. Yeah, I wouldn't stay in that house by myself either. I'd be leaving. In late 2015, I was laid off from my job at the zoo and was staying with my grandparents for a couple of months. My grandparents have 2 little dogs, and because Grandpa worked nights and Grandma was away in Texas for a month, they were really glad to have someone around to feed and walk the dogs during the day. One night, I'm home alone, I'm relaxing in the tub, when all of a sudden, through the skylight in the bathroom, I can hear whispered, hushed voices that can only be coming from the back porch. I think I must be hearing things, but then both dogs start barking their heads off. My blood runs freezing cold and I leap out of the bath, pull my clothes on, and run to the porch, but whoever was there was already gone. I took a shovel and walked the perimeter of the house but found nothing. After that, Grandpa updated the security system. In 1977, an Alberta couple wanted a pump for their septic tank, and they decided to take the pump from the tank of their old abandoned farm instead of buying a new one. In doing so, they discovered an unalived body that was thrown in there. The victim's story is very horrific. He was tortured and schmexually mutilated before he was pew-pewed, then thrown in the septic tank of an abandoned farm, hoping that the crime would never be discovered. The victim was identified in 2021, but the unaliving is yet to be solved. That one is really scary, and it reminds me of that thing that happened in Los Angeles where that girl was found in the tank, like above the building. That's really scary and really sad.
I need to tell you a horrific story that is going to get squashed by the algorithm. I'm not kidding. Every person I talked to this weekend, once I found this out, I asked if they knew. I'm talking friends, family, strangers I was seated next to at a restaurant, and not a single person had heard this because our local news isn't talking about it. This is 24-year-old Jonathan Peternell from here in the Indianapolis area. And last month, in October of 2025, Jonathan was arrested and faces multiple felony charges for possession of C-SPAN. Fitchers Police Department released a statement on behalf of the task force that arrested him, and it said that a search warrant was conducted on his residence where further evidence was located showing that he possessed over 200 files of child sexual abuse material. Some of this included sadomasochistic child abuse, children that appeared to be drugged or intoxicated while being abused, violent child molestation, and photorealistic AI-generated photos of nude pregnant toddlers. According to 24/7 News, he also was in possession of 50 pictures and videos of his mother and father, either naked or performing sex acts. And this is who his father is. Nathan Peternell, the lead pastor of one of the huge mega churches here in the Indianapolis surrounding area. Now, Nathan has not been legally implicated in any of this. But I think part of the reason people are finding it so shocking is because of how much him and Micah Beckwith talked about trafficking or child exploitation on their podcast, Jesus, Sex, and Politics. And they're not just like co-hosts, right? Like in this post from Micah Beckwith, he says that Nathan is one of his best friends and spiritual brother-in-arms. And Micah Beckwith is our current lieutenant governor. Like, I'm not going to stay here all day, but like, just do some Googling. Now, he too has not been legally implicated in anything related to Jonathan Peternell. But he not only is friends with Nathan, he also, while having this full-time job as lieutenant governor, does have a job as a pastor of one of the campuses of this church. Now, recently, 24/7 News had been publishing stories of young women who have come forward and said that while Nathan Peternell did not physically do anything to them. He was inappropriate with them when they went to his youth group, where he would have small groups in which he would talk to girls as young as 12 about very sexually explicit things. He did address his congregation and did like a whole prodigal son thing and cried and said that he was gonna like step back for a little bit. And in a move I know all too well from growing up in churches like this, Micah Beckwith said to the congregation recently, according to Foresight News, that this is just the enemy spreading lies.
Tonight's True Scary Story has a lot going on in a short period of time, and it is scary. I'm pretty sure this person is still living in this house, which terrifies me, and you're about to find out why. By the way, you guys, I did tell a long, scary story tonight. I cannot tell you where it is, so put 2 and 2 together, and if you do say it in the comments, please use code words so that I don't get in trouble. Okay, thank you so much. Love you. Tonight's submitter's name is Teresa, and back in 2016, she moved into a home that used to be a funeral home, and it was built in the 1800s. First day that she was there, she was in the kitchen just unpacking some things, listening to music. She's just enjoying the music, unpacking kitchen items, when all of a sudden she hears something. At first she thought, was it an animal? What was it? It was a growl. Someone was growling in her ear. It wasn't an animal. She gets this overwhelming feeling of fear and panic, and she runs into the living room, but whatever this is, it's chasing her. This growl is in her ear as she is running to the living room. Now, she doesn't go into detail about what she did about this, but she just ran into the living room, and I guess maybe just ignored it after that because she doesn't say anything. But what she did tell me is a couple days later, she's sitting in her living room watching TV, which is near the kitchen, when suddenly she hears this sound in the ceiling. It's like, it sounds like animals are like running around upstairs and their nails are tapping on the floor. She would go to investigate and it would stop. She would run outside in absolute terror. This really freaked her out for some reason because she didn't realize what was going on in her house. I mean, first she's hearing the growling, now she's hearing these animal sounds upstairs when there's no animals upstairs. Well, unfortunately, while she's in the house, the heater breaks, and so she needs someone to come and fix the heater. So she calls these guys to come and fix it, and while she's watching TV, they're downstairs fixing the heater, and she's just enjoying TV. It's a normal day. Nothing freaky has happened on this day yet, when all of a sudden she starts hearing yelling coming from these guys, and they're running up the stairs and running outside. They're bolting out of that house. So she runs outside and she's like, what the hell's going on? What is wrong? Why did you guys just run upstairs like that? And they tell her that they saw a woman downstairs. She had long black hair, sharp teeth, black eyes, a hollowed out nose. She was super thin, about 5 feet tall, wearing Victorian era clothes. And they told her that apparently she screamed, "Get out or I'll kill you." So now she's like, great, well now my water heater's not fixed and now I have a demon woman in my basement. So now she is absolutely terrified. So as she's dealing with all of this, she's trying to cope with it, but she has to stay in the house because she has nowhere else to go. So she has to stay in this house. She just purchased it. Well, there was a phone in the house. There was like this phone that did not even have like a cord that attached to the wall. So the phone did not work at all whatsoever. And she said that there were so many nights that she would wake up in the middle of the night and she would hear that phone ringing. She literally thought she was losing her mind. She would go and check though, and the phone would actually be ringing. A phone that was not connected to the wall.
On the morning of February 20th, 1881, a police officer led a search party through the woods in Hill County, Texas, which at the time was a very rural farming community with lots of dense, undeveloped woodland. The officer and the search party were looking for a father of 7 named George Arnold, who had vanished from his home 2 days earlier. The day that George had gone missing was a Sunday, and he, his wife, and their kids always went to church together on Sundays. But on that morning, George had told his family, for reasons unknown, that he actually wanted to stay home, which was very out of character for him. Nonetheless, his wife and kids had gone to church without him, and then when they had returned, George was gone. Now, there was no sign of a struggle or any issues at the house. The only clue as to where George may have gone was a letter he left behind for his wife. And in this letter, he said he had gone off into the woods and that she should not follow him. And so again, that was 2 days ago. And so now the police officer and the search party were searching the forest near the home where George lived. The lead officer is trudging through the woods. They're way off the beaten path at this point. They eventually came to this pretty decent sized clearing. And in the middle of the clearing is this one huge tree. And at the base of the tree was George. So at this point, you need to understand that there was some nuance to the letter that George left behind for his wife. He didn't just say, "I'm going into the woods, don't follow me." He said, "I have to go into the woods." And the way the letter ended was George saying how much he loved his family and wished he didn't have to do this, but he'd given it some thought and it had to be done. Back in the woods, the Maine police officer and the search party, they see George at the base of this tree and they hustle over to him. But even before they were right on top of him, it was obvious he was dead. However, That wasn't the main sentiment as they're walking over, that, oh my gosh, George is dead. Instead, it was like, what happened here? George was chained by his ankle to the tree he was sitting next to. There was a padlock on the chain. There was no way to get it off. George was also completely naked, but his clothes were sort of tattered up and sitting in a pile right next to him. And George was covered in all these scrapes and cuts, and they looked like teeth marks, but not teeth marks from animals. Teeth marks from a human's mouth. And then next to him on the ground, along with his clothes, were all these little, like, white stones.
Can we show him the older homestead?
Okay, yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
They went to both.
Yeah.
If you want to sleep tonight, I would keep scrolling. Now, I've recently had some activity happening in my house, and if you've been following along with my journey, you know I've had paranormal experiences my literal entire life, mostly in a house that I used to babysit for. This time, there is something in my home. This is the first time in years I've had anything that I feel is not a good presence in my home. I'm really good about cleansing my space and keeping the energy good. I don't really know what's going on yet. I haven't even had time, effort, or wanted to put in thinking what this could possibly be. But let me tell you guys what happened to me last night. Sorry. So in my apartment, it's 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and the master bathroom, recently, like, the knob on my shower broke, so I'm waiting for maintenance to order the new part for it. So it's been a few days, and I'm just using the other bathroom. Thank God I have another bathroom, because in the main bathroom where the knob is broken, it's stuck on, like, the hottest setting, so it's really, like, too hot to shower. So I've been using the other shower, and the way this is laid out is, like, the guest bathroom's, like, right here, and then there's washer and dryer, like, right there, like, in a little hallway. Then there's another room, another bedroom. So basically, when you're in that bathroom looking out and the door is open, you can see into the other bedroom. I took a bubble bath last night because I went to Vegas this weekend for work, and body is just hurting, right? Walked far, did a lot, and it's F1, so, you know, it was just a really busy weekend. I was sore. So I'm making this bubble bath and putting in all my works and doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. And every time I'm in that bathroom, my cats, like, follow me in there. And sorry, that's when I was walking in. When I was, like, getting this bubble bath all ready, the cats, like, were waiting outside of, you know how I said, like, it's bathroom, washer and dryer, room. They're waiting, like, outside the hallway, and they're just looking like they were scared. I can't describe it, but I was, like, calling them because I'm like, they always follow me everywhere, and they're being weird. I was like, you know, whatever. I leave the bathroom door open because it's just me and my man home, you know, I don't need to close the door. And I submerge myself in the water, right? I'm in the bubble bath, and I hear, like, a clicking sound, almost like a, but more, like, deep. It's hard to describe. I just heard, like, a clicking sound coming from that bedroom where I could see right into. However, it's nighttime, the light is off, and in my head I'm just like, oh my god, this is kind of the area where I heard that guttural, like, choking sound a few days prior came from, like, the kitchen bedroom area. And I'm just like, man. So I figure it might be my boyfriend, you know, so I call out to him. I'm like, hey, like, are you in there? Nothing. Clicking noise stops. Both of my cats are now in the hallway looking straight into that room, but their bodies are, like, crooked. It's like their heads are mostly looking in the room. They looked like they were afraid. And my dog is always laying in that room. My dog ran out of the room. I'm like, lovely. I'm trying not to look in the room because at this point I know I'm not stupid. This has been happening so much. I don't want to look. I don't want to be scared. Then I hear the choking sound again. It sounds like somebody is choking, but it's very deep and disturbing. It's not like a normal person. It sounds like something out of this world. It's like choking and gagging. I start freaking out. I start screaming for my boyfriend because I'm like, I'm just so not doing this right now. Like, I got scared. It's very rare for me to get scared anymore, but that really scared me. Then I hear, like, it sounds like someone coming. So I'm like, thank God, like, my boyfriend heard me, right? I turned to look in the hallway. It's like the opening of the bathroom door, like hallway. And I'm gonna describe to you exactly what I saw. And I'm sorry ahead of time for the nightmares. I see something directly in that room, that bedroom, crouching on the floor. It looks like it was just cramped, right? This thing is crouching on the floor with its knees up. It looked a lot like Red, the really bad entity I dealt with when I was in high school that lived in my house. Hair, red, like afro, orange reddish, more so, not like Ariel red, you know? Orange reddish afro. Eyes wide as can be, going like that. Sorry, I think that's what it was. Its hands weren't this way. Its hands were this way. Like that. Like it was, I looked over and it's crouched down with its hands like that, mouth open, eyes wide. Screamed at the top of my lungs. Right when like I start really, really screaming, like when I look at that, my boyfriend turns the corner, he was like, sorry, I was in the bathroom, like going to the bathroom in the other room, like what the fuck's going on? Like, what, are you okay? And I was hysterical. I literally got up out of this bubble bath, completely soaked up, like wet still, soap everywhere. And I'm just like holding on to him. And he's like, what is, my poor man, he's like, what's going on? Like, what? Here's the kicker. My boyfriend doesn't believe in paranormal stuff, right? Like it's not that he doesn't believe me. It's just one of those things where if you don't experience it, it's really hard to think that that's real, you know? As he's holding me, I start hearing the choking sound again. He turned around and looked in the room and was like, did you hear that? So, yeah, when I get home from work today, we're gonna be doing some serious cleansing of my house because that is not a sight I ever want to see again. And the noises that this thing keeps making is truly like, I think the worst part. The choking, like, gutter, I can't get it out of my head. And I don't know if it's Red. I don't know if he came back. I don't know if it's something pretending to be Red because it knows what scares me. I have no idea. I will keep you guys updated though. Bye.
When you're being haunted in your house, like terrifyingly, and then you find out later on after doing some research that you are validated because something terrible happened in that house, those are the stories that scare me the most. By the way, I do have to give a huge trigger warning for this one, and it does have to do with a child, so please keep that in mind. So in 2007, Gabby moved from San Francisco to Miami. She had just gotten a divorce, and she was moving back in with her mother to basically get back on her feet again. So she was waiting to get a new job, and she was saving up money. So her mom had a 3-story house, and she had a finished basement in it, and she had like this little studio area in her basement, and that is where Gabby was going to be staying. Had a queen bed, a little space for a couch, and it was just like this cozy little studio that she had going on down there. She loved it. She doesn't remember exactly when it started, but she started to have these weird dreams, and little by little these dreams would turn into reality. Pause. Does anyone else's dog sleep like this? Little weirdo. Like, bro, close your legs. Okay, let's get on with the story. So one night after one of these weird dreams, she wakes up in the middle of the night and she looks at the end of her bed, and there's a man standing there, and he's wearing a pleated shirt and blue jeans, and he's just staring at her like, get out of my house. Well, she wasn't really scared of seeing ghosts because apparently she had been seeing them her entire life. So what she did is she went over to her nightstand and she turned on the light, and this person was just gone. This is where it starts to get more sinister. The next night she falls asleep and she wakes up in the middle of the night, and she feels like something is watching her, and she suddenly gets goosebumps all over her entire body. So she sits up and she's about to like put her feet down on the floor when she looks down on the floor, and there's just a puddle of blood on the floor, and she's like, what the is that? So she goes to turn on her light with her lamp, and her lamp is one of those lamps where like it has that little stick in it where you push it in this way and it goes out the other side to turn it on, and then to turn it off you push it out the other way and the stick comes out the other side. Basically the lamp has to be manipulated by a person to turn it on and off. So she goes to turn it on to look at this puddle of blood that's on her floor, and she turns it on and it just goes and it turns off. At this point, she calmly lays back down in her bed. She puts the covers over her head because she is like, I am not messing with this one. So a couple nights later, she wakes up in the middle of the night to someone talking in her living area. And she had a leather couch in her living area. And when you sit on a leather couch, it makes noises, right? So she hears somebody talking and they're like whispering. And then she suddenly hears them sit down on the couch. But then she hears someone making another noise on the other couch. And they're both leather. It sounds like something small is jumping up and down on her couch. Not a man, something or someone small just jumping up and down. So she's just hearing her. She said that this one, for some reason, really scared her. She got really scared. So she started saying the Lord's Prayer. She said that as soon as she started saying this prayer, the energy in that room shifted. These entities got so angry. She could literally feel it. But she doesn't care at this point because she's like, these entities are not taking over my studio. When suddenly she hears these two entities, two pairs of feet, run, like book it towards the back door. So they go out the door literally and close it. And then all of the dogs in the neighborhood just start going wild. And it's the middle of the night, mind you. So all of these dogs in the neighborhood are just barking, growling, and going wild. In that moment, she was like, okay, something is really going on here and I need to research what it is. But the one occurrence where she was like, okay, that's it, I have to move, was when she had this dream. So she falls asleep and it's nighttime in her dream. And she wakes up in her dream on her bed and she sits up in her bed, but she hears the sound of a little boy crying. Very softly though, like almost like a whisper cry. So she gets up out of bed and to go see what it is. And she realizes that this crying is coming from the closet. So she slowly moves towards the closet and the crying is just getting louder and louder. So she slowly opens the closet door and there's a little boy sitting in the closet. He looks like grayish. He has his like head in his knees and he's looking down at first and then he looks up at her and his face is just filled with sorrow. He was wearing a brown shirt and shorts. She was petrified. She literally said verbatim she was scared to her bones. And suddenly, just like that, she wakes up and she has goosebumps all over her body. Well, the next day after she wakes up, her sister calls her. Her sister lives about 10 minutes away from her and she's like, oh my God, Gabby, I had the weirdest dream last night. And Gabby's like, what was it? So she proceeds to tell her that she has this dream and she wakes up in her dream and she's in Gabby's house and she sits up in bed and she has goosebumps all over her body when suddenly she hears a little boy crying, but it's like a whisper cry. And you guys can guess where it goes from there. Every single detail was exactly the same as Gabby's dream. Gabby could not believe what she was hearing. She was in absolute shock, and this really scared her. Well, later on that day, that same night, her sister comes over with her computer, and they are absolutely determined to find out what happened in this house. After a little bit of research, they find out that 10 years prior, there was a Schmug-related robbery in that house. 2 armed men went into the house and unalived the father, and then went into the little boy's bedroom, found him in the closet, and unalived him. Seriously, so sad. I will never understand that. Like, for what? For what did the little boy do? How could you possibly have it in your heart to a child? I cannot even, it takes a special type of evil. It really does. There is a special place in hell for people like that. What did you guys think about this story? I think so many things align up here. First of all, the puddle of that she saw on the floor could have definitely been residual. She could have seen what had happened there or part of what had happened there. The man standing at the end of her bed could definitely have been the father. And obviously the little boy in the closet, like we know who that was. And it just breaks my heart to think of like that was how he was probably You guys know what I was going to say. I'm not going to go into detail about it. By the way, for those of you who want to know, this is the house. So that was the basement and this is the house. So drop all your thoughts, opinions, and suggestions in the comments. But as always, please be respectful. These kinds of stories put me in such a bad mood sometimes. Sometimes I get these and they're like hard to read. And I'm not laughing. I don't think it's funny. That's my way of kind of like coping with not crying because I don't want to cry in every video that's sad, but I do think that they're important to tell because, you know, something did happen to that family, something did happen to that little boy, and he was trying to communicate with this woman, I believe, and maybe he wanted his story to be known.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
Okay, I'm waiting for my brother to come meet me for lunch, and I was scrolling on TikTok and someone had posted what's the scariest moment in your life, and I think I might have the scariest one. So I have always been terrified of someone breaking into my house. My parents' house got broken into when I was like in the 2nd grade, and I've been scared since, and I don't even live with my parents anymore. And I feel like I'm always prepared for someone to break in, if you know what I mean. But anyways, so I was at my parents' house. I still lived there, and my parents were at the beach, and my sister was out of town, and my brother was at work, so there was nobody in the house. And I remember sleeping, or maybe just laying in my bed. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. And I heard someone in my kitchen, like opening cabinets and shutting cabinets. And I thought, great, the time is now, like, I'm ready to kill somebody. And I was terrified because usually when my parents left me and they went on vacation, they would leave me a shot. I don't know if I can say it because I'm gonna get taken down. But anyways, they always left me one, and I knew how to shoot one, and I was ready. But they did not leave it out. So I was thinking, what am I supposed to do? And I just thought there was a big man in my kitchen, and he was going to come upstairs and kill me, stab me, slice my throat, torture me. Like, I was so scared. So I called 911, and they're like, so-and-so, or first I checked Live 360 to make sure nobody was at home, and everybody was not at home. Like, there was no one close to me at all. So I thought, okay, someone really is in the house. And they kept opening cabinets in my kitchen. So I call 911, and I say, I'm whispering that someone is in my house. And they said, okay, stay inside. And my bedroom is on the 3rd floor of my parents' house. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? And they just said, stay inside, like, stay on the phone with me. What's your address? And our address is Pine Mountain Road. So I was like, 1234 Pine Mountain Road. And she said, what? Pine Cone Road? And I was like,